The time has come once again to speak as witches and wizards and spirits do. I'm Daniel Dubois,
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
and we're your hosts for the Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to season 5, episode 11, Kali. Alternatively, Kali Ma or Ma Kali. I've heard it used different ways. But just for the listeners, Kali and Kali Ma or Ma Kali are all the same, but it just depends on what aspect of Kali you're trying to call out. If you call for Kali Ma or Ma Kali, you're calling for the mother side of Kali. And I learned this week that I don't know jack shit about Kali, or at least I don't know enough about Kali.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Well, and it's
Because
interesting,
now
right?
it
Yeah.
opens up a whole new thing.
Yeah. Like I had my cursory understanding, right?
Uh-huh.
Death, destruction, and what was the other word? Time,
Chaos.
right? So I had that stuff, and the long tongue and the arms and the severed heads and all that kind of thing. But that's nowhere near because like I did my week and then last night she was like, okay, you can watch some videos. And I'm like, all right, I'll watch some. And again, reinforcing my disdain for modern religion. But as much as we usually keep that to Christianity, she's been altered by Buddhism and Islam as well into a
Sure.
more she loses a lot of her more wild edge through those lenses. But yeah, and then the colonization, or well, the colonization of India by Britain pretty much really messed up her the perception of her.
Any influence that is added to the original
Right,
is going to have an effect, right? And Buddhism is one of the religions that freely admits that it plays with whatever's in the region at the time. Like in the Himalayas, the
mm-hmm.
Bon religion, which is animism,
Right,
and animal spirits, that was there before Buddhism. So when
right,
Buddhism arrived, they said, okay, cool. Let's incorporate this. We'll bring it in. And so
right.
they have. When you look at a lot of the paintings from Buddhism, the tankas and so on, what do they look like? If you forget it's Buddhism and just look at it objectively and say, well, what is this? It's animal spirits, right? It's animism.
Right. It's just interesting because with Kali, like more than the other spirits, and it just took me one video because I did some, like the secret history of Kali, basically the video, and it was like
Mm.
from her inception, like almost 5,000 years ago, to where she is today. She went through a lot of changes, and it's funny because like from a modern context, like the reason for her tongue sticking out in a lot of statues is originally comes from the fact that she was the only god who could fight a particular demon because when he's injured, his blood creates a clone of him. So anyone else fighting him would be producing clones, but because she uses her tongue quickly and she drinks up the blood before it hits the ground, she's able to beat him.
Right?
And so you go from that imagery of one of the most fierce warrior goddesses, or the most fierce warrior god, never mind, point final in French there, like, that's it. Nothing else to be thrown in. To by the end, before she gets picked up by paganism, she's a demure, not demure, but she's an obedient wife by the end until modern paganism picks her up again.
It's interesting, isn't it? How even deities, societies, all of the
Right.
things work to make women smaller than they are, less powerful than they
Yeah.
are, and rewrite the story of what a woman is here to do, what what the purpose is, and so on, and write it in such a way that men then get the idea that, oh, we're all powerful, we're all the thing, and they're just here for our pleasure kind of deal.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, producing humans. But it's never quite understood why there is such an insecurity for so many centuries about feminine, about women. Like we're half the planet.
Mm.
And in deities, all deities, they have male, female. I mean, there doesn't need to be a gender, but we give it to them
Yeah.
because we kind of need that ourselves.
Right.
But we're, it's such an interesting place that we're at with the whole, women have to be tamed.
Mm.
That's the theme. Let's tame
Right.
women, even down to Mother Nature, right? Like, what does mankind do but try and tame Mother Nature?
Yeah.
And Mother Nature's going to bite you in the ass every time.
Yeah. It's funny that we do Babylon and then Kali back to back because you have in Babylon the power through submission, like making, or you could call it not submission, but saying making a space, like a comfortable, safe space that people can feel open to be themselves, which is
Power
what,
through giving.
yeah. And then you have Kali, who is the divine power through, I don't give a shit about what you have to say or what constraints you want to put on me.
Right.
And it's interesting to see them back to back. And it's funny, like my experience with Kali was a bit different or different than I expected. There I go having expectations again. So, in part, right, there were moments where, because part of her thing, right, is throwing off norms. That's one of the things associated with Kali. And so sometimes she would show up as completely naked goddess just sitting around. And I'm like, is this about the whole using, romantic love as, she's like, no, I'm just naked. And she did it a few times, like, I'm just naked. Like, don't worry about it. Don't read anything more into it than there is. I'm like, all right. But it's like, took me a minute. I'm like, okay, wait. Because right now, the whole part of the lesson is the using romantic love back as a source of energy for my magic. And I'm like, hmm. And she's like, no, don't read that into that. That's not what it's about. I'm like, all right. She just wanted to be naked. I'm like, all right, fine. Took me about a couple hours to kind of get used to get, instead of trying to figure it out, it's going, okay, I accept it. Like, I'm just going to leave that as what it is.
She's simply asking to be seen.
Yeah. Took me a second. But yeah. So that was interesting. There's nothing to read into it. It was just, this is how I want to show up.
Yeah, she wanted to be seen as she is.
Right.
No disguises or hiding of any sort. Just this. This is it. This is what
Yeah.
you get to see.
Yeah. So that was very, and I like that. That was an interesting concept for the week because it was just like, because it made me think like, well, yeah, this is what would be like in nature. Like, and she is a primordial goddess because she's one of the earliest ones. Well, actually, she has like a pretty interesting history from being an aspect of Agni to being her own goddess in her own right. And so there was a lot of development in her story.
Hmm.
I like recommend the listeners go and search stuff on her because she does, or at least I happened to luck upon a video that gave me her history over 5,000 years and how when different powers come in, because her existence does predate the Vedic view of Hinduism. So
Uh-huh.
she got changed for the Vedic. She got changed every step, every time, but they all did, right? Every new influence.
Everybody rewrites the
Yeah.
deities to suit their agenda, and I think that's a cautionary tale for the listener who wants to dive into this and maybe
Mm,
go into relationship with one of the deities, such as everybody knows by now, Lilith is my jam,
mm. Right.
and you need to be open to, well, what else is there? How many perspectives can you find? How many facets are there? Because people have multiple facets. So if we, with our limitations in this physical body, have multiple facets,
Hmm.
how much more so would a deity have?
Right.
Obviously, countless, right? You're never going to reach the end of this is it. I've learned everything there is to learn. Like, I don't think we have enough lifetimes for that. But just being open to which facet are you going to connect with, which wants to connect with you,
Yeah.
and what does that look like, and how does it change? But rather than trying to be in control of what it looks like or
Right.
control of which aspect it is, we don't have that. And we've been living this bullshit illusion for hundreds of years now of, oh yeah, we're going to rewrite this one to suit our agenda so that everybody behaves this way. And we'll especially keep the women quiet because, that's what religions are good at doing, all of them, and not just religion. It's a societal thing as well. And, when the women are quiet, everybody can be comfortable. Well, that's not true. It may seem to be, but on the surface, if you don't look too hard, but it's not true. Women
Right.
have work to do,
And that's
and
the
it's
thing,
not being in the damn kitchen.
right? What I'm Not what I'm starting to get, but what's really starting to gel right now is really just like I always knew the divine feminine was important right now. I've said it already like a bunch of times, but it's really, 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 really hitting home right now with all these stories, all these goddesses we're exploring, how
Mhm.
really important it is. Like not just the lip service to it, like, but really right now culturally, how really important it is, and how really important it is for women to recognize their power and how to use it with confidence and in all seriousness, not just to take up grievances from bad treatment, but to actually take responsibility. Like if you're going to be in charge, it's not to wield your power with grievances, but you still have to make things work, even if you want to rectify grievances.
Well, the thing with the grievances,
Yeah.
we all have them,
Right.
right? Like every single female on this planet has got them. That's without question. But it's actually a siphon of your energy to focus on it too much.
Mm.
It's like any other thing that you've gone through in life and you're still carrying it. It's one of those things you've just got to transmute it. I just got to. You need to transmute it into something usable and move on. This is not to say, oh, well, none of that mattered.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is just you've had enough of my attention and energy, and you're not getting any more for that nonsense. I have stuff to do, and using the power that we have, the abilities that we have, that is something that needs to be forward facing, forward focused,
Right.
so that we can create what we need to create because what was is clearly up in flames at the moment. It's not we're not going back to anything. That's
Right.
not a thing.
Right. And it's kind of like we had discussed about forgiveness because we kind of went off on one episode about the whole thing of if you're forgiving people, what are you trying to do? You're still beholden to your victimhood. And
Right.
that's kind of, yeah, Kali's saying this right now. Let go of your victimhood. Um, yes, so let go of your victimhood. That is a straight, point blank statement. Let go of your victimhood. Now, that's not to mean that no one cares and that no one is supposed to care or that you're not supposed to care. But power, because this is going to be about power as well, power cannot be effectively wielded if you're keeping yourself small. And yeah, unfortunately, keeping your victimhood keeps you small. It doesn't let you grow and express
100%.
who you are. It doesn't let you, yeah, it doesn't let you grow. It doesn't let you hold your power. It doesn't let you absorb. It doesn't let you be with your power because you're still
I
giving it away.
think The thing that's important to understand is that letting go of something doesn't mean it's not valid. It
Right.
doesn't mean that your experience is not valid. It just means that you've grown out of it now and you're not prepared to keep reliving it. And this is important so that you can see clearly. You can't look at deities that we've been talking about with new eyes, with a new
Hmm.
perspective, if you're still carrying the old one. So
Right.
if you're still working through the whole, well, when I was little, the priest said this and I learned that and da da da. Okay, you can see that with adult eyes now.
Right.
Is it, do you still want to go there? Like, is that still where you're at? And if it is, I'm kind of surprised you're still hanging out with us, but cool. And typically though, I think for most listeners, that's not where they are
Mm.
still. So just put it down, let it go. It's not even forgive. So the thing with forgiveness is it's a step. If you want to do that
Hmm.
because you've learned that that's a good thing to do, knock yourself out. But as soon as you can after that, just let it disintegrate, let it go. The crumbling I was talking about in the last episode, you touch it and it crumbles to dust.
Right.
That's the chains, that's the locks. They disappear to nothing because you're not feeding them anymore. You're not keeping them intact anymore because you've got other things to do. And the other things are far more important than reliving the same nonsense or buying into the same stories and sort of rehashing stuff that's already been out there. Like we're not here for that now. It's done. It's finished. That's it. Let it go.
Yeah.
We need to look forward. What's next? Because it doesn't look like anything we've done before. So what is it?
Yeah. Because like Kali's basically chomping at the bit to make sure that message gets heard. She, for her, and she knows through her stories how even her stories were victimized to make her a submissive wife, even though she has her own power and her own power exists at the pleasure of her husband. But she's like, but that's beneath me to worry about small people trying to keep me small. They can make all the stories they want, but I'm bigger than that. And when it comes down to it and they try to stop me, they can't. She is the goddess who defeated the demon of the cloning blood when no other god could do it. So she doesn't need approval. She doesn't need permission to live in her power.
That is actually okay. That message,
Mm.
I just got that one loud and clear. That message is for everybody.
Yeah.
You, the listener, you,
Mm.
Danielle,
Hmm.
you, meaning me, none of us need permission for anything that we're doing. That's not to, I'm not promoting anarchy. That
Right.
that is a different thing. But what I am saying is the abilities that you have are not there because somebody else says so. The
Right.
gifts that you have are not yours so long as somebody else lets you use them. No, no, no,
Right.
no, no. We all have to step out of that barbed wire and just, the grass is green, right? The other side of the barbed wire. Let's go for that. Got to get out of that story and into what else is possible. I've been learning so much this week myself.
Right.
I have okay, we all have our weak spots, right?
Yes.
Mine, funnily enough, is giving everybody this little gem, but a thing that enrages me really quickly,
Mm.
and enrages is the right word, is when somebody does not communicate in a timely manner
Right.
when they're going to change an agreement we have, like
Right.
an appointment or something.
Right.
I can't stand everything that brings with it, right? The whole, okay, your time's not important. I don't really care that I made that appointment, etc., etc. And I have a lot of story around that, which I'm aware of. And this week it's come up a couple of times. I'm like, okay, I've really got to work through this. And what the point I came to, thankfully, was okay, this means that the universe, the deities, whichever thing you want to focus on, has a plan that's not quite what I thought it was, and things need to shift a little. Okay? I still don't like the method, but my blood pressure can calm down a little bit.
Right.
Um, yeah. So the
Yeah.
big deal from that
Right.
was it's another layer of letting go. It's another layer of, okay, okay, fine. Really, I'll let it go. Just deal with it yourself. Fine, it's okay. Universe, just show me what it is when you're ready. It's kind of throwing in the towel on having control over what it looks
Right.
like. Because even though consciously we sort of say, okay, let go of control, we're still trying to have control, right? It still comes up. There's old stories where it still comes up,
Yeah.
and we still try and interpret through an old lens. So at the moment, every time something's coming up through an old lens, it's getting slapped out of my hand. It's just like, nope, not that one. That's an old lens. Nope, not that either.
Well, I'm going to share this with the listeners, and Michaela might feel this when I say it. I don't remember if I texted you and told you. I think I did. But anyway, so at the beginning of the week, right, I do a spell with the new spirit, usually on a Sunday night. And I started doing the spell with Kali, and I wasn't feeling it, and I kind of
Right.
said in my head, I'm not feeling this. And Kali goes, okay, well, you know what? Finish the spell in your own words. So I did. And then it wasn't until Tuesday, I think it was, where I'm like, okay, like I was in the shower and I was about to have a panic attack. It wasn't going to last, but I was just like, this is bullshit. Why am I getting these? I've done the void thing. I understand how it works. I know why I get them. I even know why it kicks in, and it's based on something I don't even believe in anymore. So why is it still kicking in? I said, you know what, Carly? Here's the thing. I've been slow this week, but this is what we're doing. We're pruning away the bullshit. I want the energy to go to the branches and the leaves that need to grow, and get rid of the rest of the stuff that's just dragging me down. I said that's what I want the spell to do this week. Let's get rid of this old shit.
Mhm.
So.
And that's a theme that's coming up
Mm,
all over the place today, right? And
right.
it's literally showing up in different ways. And I'm sure for the listener too, if they're anywhere near the same path that we're
Mm,
on, or something parallel, then the stuff you're trying to do, and it's just not going the way you want it to go because what you're trying to do is an old pattern. It's a familiar path, and we're just not doing familiar anymore. It's just that's it. We're not doing
right.
familiar, and that requires a big change of view and a willingness to be uncomfortable because when we don't know what's happening, that's uncomfortable.
Right.
There's a lot of unknown, uncertainty, and humans don't do well with that.
Right. So it's interesting, right? So this week, Kali was the destroyer, but it was destroyer of, as I said, old bullshit. All the things that you know me.
Destroyer of illusion.
Right. So, because I was like thinking, right? Well, she's the destroyer. We might as well take advantage of that. That was my thought, anyways, when I was thinking about it. And it's like, there you go, destroy away. So, and interestingly enough, a lot of it was subtle or showed up in my dreams. Kind of the same thing it was with Babylon. It was more dream oriented or just kind of subtle knowings during the week. And so this week was both calm and exhausting. Even like yesterday, I think I had like 7 hours sleep, and then I slept for a couple hours during the day. And even then, I could have slept all day because it was just all the when you prune on the spiritual side, you still need to recover. And so a lot of work was being done throughout the week. And it's interesting. So, you know what? I'll jump onto the dreams I had this week related. So it started off, I had to deal with Darth Vader, and it ended up I had to deal with a mob boss. That and everything else sandwiched in between. And the themes were always how to use your power in this situation, how to recognize you have power in this situation. The Darth Vader dream, right? So it starts off, and I'll set it up, right? How do you insert Darth Vader into a mundane scenario? So this is how the dream went. So for those of you who remember Patrick, who was on the show, who's my nephew, it starts off with Darth Vader bullying Patrick using the Force. And I'm like, okay, this is bullshit there. And I tell Patrick to leave, and then Darth Vader, so he's like, okay, well then you're my target. I'm like, whatever, you know. So then what he was doing to Patrick, he was doing to me. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this is stupid. How do I stop this? And then I pick up on a weak spot in the way he uses the Force, and it's like, kind of understand that if I exploit this, I can actually kill him, at the same time. And I'm like, all right. So I focus on that weak spot, and I see like it's really obvious. I don't know how Darth Vader is missing it in his training, but I'm like, right now, if I wanted to, I could kill him. And as I'm sitting here debating this, I'm like, okay, he's being an ass, but it's not like he's not exactly the Darth Vader from the movies. He's not like going around killing people, and he's just being a dick. So I'm like, do I need to kill someone being a dick? you know, I can right now. I could quote unquote take the psychic shot and kill him. But it was interesting because then as I'm thinking that, I'm realizing, why do I even need to kill him? I'm actually more powerful than he is. So why do I even need to kill him? And he's still doing his stuff while I'm thinking all this, right? Because I'm like totally ignoring him at this point and just going, so I could kill him, but do I want to kill him? Why should I kill him for being a dick? And I'm more powerful than he is, so he's not even really a threat to me at this point. So I could do whatever I wanted to stop this.
You definitely have interesting
I
dreams.
do.
You
One day I'll
do.
tell you one about the wasps with the big stingers that are like serrated steak knife blades. When I talk about a lot of the dreams I had, people look at me and go like, "You should seek help or something," because that imagery is like, "What the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you?"
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just going to say maybe don't tell them your dreams, but then here we are in a podcast. So,
That's right.
yeah, never mind.
We've already spoke of enough things that if someone wanted to challenge my mental health, they've got more than enough evidence to challenge it.
Yeah,
Unless you
no,
look,
that
of
doesn't,
course, of the work around it, but whatever.
that's not a thing these days. Although
Yeah.
it would be more likely if you were female, funnily enough. Then there'd be the, oh, she's got a problem.
Yeah.
she's got these issues going on that men get more overlooked than women for that.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
saying.
I don't remember if I shared this on the podcast, but this goes along with what you're saying. Do you know where hysteria comes from? That diagnosis for
Syria.
hysterical?
It comes from, isn't it something to do with having a womb?
Well, it's Sigmund Freud, right? And it's
That
basically a
dude
form
was
of
sick.
PTSD. This is what it is. I was reading about actually in a book on PTSD. And so, but the only reason it was diagnosed as hysteria was a failing on Freud's side. Not a failing in his psychological understanding, but a failing in his social understanding. The patient who came to him, where he came up with his diagnosis, was telling him, my father's a businessman and he uses me to close deals and I get sexually abused and all that kind of stuff. And Freud's thing is that no one in polite society would do that. So she's clearly has issues. Like he didn't look at her like, oh, you're lying intentionally. She's like, you have delusions and you're exaggerating what you're saying. And I'm reading the book and I'm like, but I had already like by this point in my life, I had heard enough stories from royalty and people who had businesses like who would pimp out their daughters and their sons, whatever the case may be, for whatever the taste of the potential client may be. So when I read this, I'm like, yeah, it sounds about right. But Freud refused to accept someone in polite society would behave that way. So
Freud
he
had a
blamed her.
great Freud had a great many issues.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a saying if you're in the mental health world,
Mhm.
and I have worked in the psychiatric hospital,
Right.
and there's a saying there that if you want to find the real nutcases, and hey, apologies for the language, but that was the language of the time.
Mm.
You want to find the real nutcase, go find the psychiatrist and have a chat to them because they are all nuts.
Mm.
That's and pretty much.
Yeah. And
I'll
if it's
stand
not,
by that. If somebody that's worked in psych wants to tell me something different,
mm,
we can chat.
yeah, it's interesting. In case no one is picking up on this, this whole episode is about women reclaiming power because Kali, I would put it as Kali is the goddess of I don't give a shit about what you tell me about my power. I'm using it however I want.
And I think that's the thing with all the deities that we're looking at
Mm,
to some degree, and they're showing different aspects of it,
right.
right? You've got the more giving and gentle power, if you will, from last week. This one's
Right.
more of a slap upside the head or worse,
Mm,
um, destruction in order to create, because you
right.
you also have Kali Ma, Kali
Mm,
Mother.
mhm,
Well, mother of what? What does a mother do? Mother creates.
right.
So Kali is not just destructive, or not solely destructive, I should say, but destructive with a purpose. She destroys what's no longer needed,
Right.
what's no longer serving, so that what does serve, what is needed, can come forward. And that's a very key. That's it. That's exactly what we're doing. What we need to do right now, what we're doing now, is what's no longer serving is being destroyed. And we got to come forward with the recreation of something, or rather the creation, because it's not redo of anything, the creation of what's next, what's new, what what's the paradigm going to be? How are we all going to show up with that? And some people are going to go kicking and screaming,
Right.
and others are running toward it as fast as they can. And you've got everything in between. And clarity on your purpose is going to be a big effect of how you end up dealing with this in the next several years. But what was isn't going to be again. That's for
Right.
sure.
There's something she wants to say, but I'm not sure she wants to say it right now. All right, we'll put it like this. So Kali is the last spirit of August that we're doing in August. But even though this will come out in the first week of September, she's the last goddess or the last spirit of the full week in August, which is important because September is the shift. Up until now, it's been prep. And so Kali being the spirit giving the handoff to the new era. I don't know if that's an exact, I don't know. Well, we'll use the word new era. So she's handing off whoever the next spirit is, and the next spirit what is this is we're doing stuff. And I'll tell you why. This was actually something that happened to me on Thursday. I was like, how can I work better with Kali? And one of the things that came to mind was that, well, I can learn when she's at her strongest. What are the dates most associated with her, right? What are the celebrations more associated with her? But it was more like astrological, like when are the times when Kali is at her most ascended? So going forward, actually, that's going to be part of. I don't know whether or not I'll be sharing when the spirit is most ascendant, but for my work, it'll be yes, look at when these spirits are most in ascension to get the most out of it, and when are they at their weakest, so that you can let them rest or do whatever, you know. So it'll be more into the work part rather than opening people's minds up to the possibilities.
Mm. And the timing
Mm-hmm.
is kind of cool to go with the changing of the seasons,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have fall
Yeah.
coming. And as you head towards winter, that's a time of rest, hibernation, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. It's a rest and recuperation and preparing for regeneration in the spring. So it's a time of invisible renewal, if you will. It's
Right.
what must come before spring,
Right.
and we're heading to that. So it's I have a feeling that this year it's going to be a significant shift from what we've seen previously. I can't really say why, and it's not that I don't want to, it's just I don't have clarity on it yet. But there's a lot going down this winter. This is going to be
Mm-hmm.
a ride. Like the image that I have is one of those Six Flag roller coaster rides,
Oh.
and you better make sure that you are buckled up, buttercup, and hanging onto
Mm.
those straps because this is going to be an event.
Well,
That's
that's the thing,
that's
right?
the imagery that I have. It's November, December, January, especially December. It's going to be unlike previous ones.
Yeah.
And I don't have more clarity than that. But if it comes in, I'll mention, I'll tell it. But
Right.
I just give it as I see it. I've
My
been feeling that for a few weeks now,
yeah. Well,
and
my
it's
biggest
the
clarity,
feeling's getting stronger.
yeah, my biggest clarity on the thing is that up until now, it was about prepping you to accept your role, to accept that you're going to do magic, regardless of what it is, regardless of what role of magic you're going to play, what venue you're going to go down. This was getting you, let you sit in your head and see the possibilities and hear what was out there. And now it's the you're doing the work for yourself. Like come see, not like as in you're not going to have any help or anything like that, but as in it's time to start stepping into this world if you haven't already. And you know what? And I'll put it like this. And if you haven't, that's fine. There was no requirement for you to step into this world. It was just about letting yourself be open to the concept, let yourself be open to what was possible. And now it's time
Well,
to go ahead.
although what I
Yeah.
my understanding
Mm-hmm.
from wherever it comes is that the people who think, yeah, that's not for me, I'm not going to join in.
Right.
Thanks all the same. The invitation for you is to look at what you're already doing
Right.
and recognize it because
Mm-hmm.
you're actually already there. And it's just not the format, perhaps, that we've talked about. But most certainly, I feel very confident for some reason in telling you that you are, in fact, already doing a whole lot of things. You're just not recognizing them for what they are.
Right.
So that's, yeah. And I mean, can't give religion a free pass because, hey, we've been on it for a bit now.
Right.
But with religions, oh, you've got a problem. I'll send you some prayers.
Mm.
Okay, cool. What's that? What does a prayer do?
Right.
You know, when I wanted to sell the house, I got told by a few people, "Oh, you need a St. Joseph." And there's a whole thing about burying St. Joseph statue upside down. And when I started looking on Amazon, there was like realtor packages of 50 of these St.
Mm.
Joseph statues. So it's a thing. Well, are you telling me then that an image of what is essentially a deity being
Mm.
buried in a particular way with a certain invocation said over it, do you want to tell me that's not magic? But
Yeah.
okay. And there's even a particular location for this thing to be. So you have realtors who are performing magic. And they're not even, they wouldn't dream of saying that. It's just, oh, well, it's a superstition, or,
Right.
oh, well, somebody said, but oh, well, somebody said enough that there are packages of 50 of these things out there.
Right.
It's like, I want to buy a whole load of black candles. Well,
Mm.
yeah, you can get big packages of them, but somebody seeing you buy those, they'd say, "Oh, you're doing some kind of magic." But you can buy your statues, and that's fine. Um, Again, have a look at what you're doing that actually is already there. Because prayers are spells.
Yes.
There's no question. They absolutely are. Mantras are spells. Ooh, I'm getting to see a very nice wand.
Yeah. Although mine, it's the Elder Wand from Harry Potter.
Is it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Looks
I got
good.
it as a gift. Oddly enough, and I don't know why this is coming up, but so when my sister and her husband and my brother and sister-in-law, they all went to Europe, and when they were in England, my sister was actually going to get me a custom-made wand. But the
Oh,
guy that she had heard of who did it, he retired, so he doesn't do them anymore. So this is just from the Harry Potter store. But incidentally, as much as you can almost do anything with magic, the spirits already told me we're not using this.
right. There's crystals are really good for,
Yeah.
you can get crystal ones, and those are very useful if you are into crystals because they can amplify, they can sanitize, as
Hmm.
in they cleanse the negative
All
energy
right.
and leave you with whatever's left. So if somebody actually wants a wand, typically speaking, your crystals are gonna, but for my perspective anyway, crystals are gonna give you responsiveness than wood.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? So like I'm holding the crystal that is used for my magic focus, and this is my wand basically, or this is what passes for a wand for me, the spherical crystal. Because for me and the way I do my magic, I just need an anchor point for the energy, and that's the sphere, and then I just work through the sphere. So, and then the sphere is already made from. Still haven't checked out the. I knew what it was, and I knew the properties were that it enhances energy. So
Mhm.
it plays this role of enhancing the energy. Plus, it's holding four elements. The four elements provided by each in a spirit, who that's their main focus. So I don't need a wand because I've got my magical focus that's already enchanted, if you will.
Yeah, ones are that it's an interesting concept, and I think it's something that it can be fun to play with, but typically speaking, you don't need them.
Mm,
Um, Funnily enough, Buddhism has various versions of wands,
right.
and they use them in ceremonies and so on. I mean, Buddhism is absolutely full of magic, no question. Judaism, full of magic. Like when you look at Kabbalah,
Right.
Lilith is there too, and Kabbalah is it's mystical. It's all magic, right? It's totally accepted
Right.
as that's what it is. Catholics just drop the word,
Hmm.
but they're doing the thing. It's
Yeah. What?
the whole the
Yeah.
incense, the incense, the prayers, the let's eat the body, let's that's the magic right there.
Right. And just for the listeners, yeah, Michaela cut out a little bit a couple times there, but I think the message came through. I'm just sharing that because I don't edit these things and I don't enhance them and I don't do anything with them. So I just want the listeners to know if they've missed something. You didn't miss anything.
I must have used extra words.
Well, I think the phrasing. We'll just take the step for a second, right? To show you how great your brain is, right? If it knows what to expect, it'll fill in the gaps.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, it does. It's great.
So I'm just saying, I recognize there was some choppiness in Michaela speaking because it disappeared a little bit. Just to let the listeners know that it's not that I don't care, to edit or whatever. It's just I want I want the intention and stuff because you never know what triggers someone or what opens their minds to something or sets them on the journey they need to be on.
Right.
So it's not neglect on my behalf. It's just I don't want to pollute the experience for you,
Or it's intentional neglect.
right? It's neglect with purpose.
There you go.
Or more specifically, it's me getting out of their way.
That's a big thing too. Getting out of other people's way, getting out of your own way, getting out of the way. It's
Mm,
a big feature at the moment. In fact, I think it's worth meditating on for anybody listening that does meditations. Meditate on where do you need to get out of the way? Yourself, your own way? Where do you need to get out of the way for maybe your kid? Or, there's somebody you're blocking. Is it you? It could be more than one person. But where are you doing that? Not necessarily intentionally, but just it's habit. It's what we do. We're taught that way. And it's sort of you might call it an interaction on one level, but it's more than that. It's actually stopping or slowing someone.
right.
And I don't have anything more for you than that, other than it's a meditation that will bring you some clarity.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. Pausing while you're
Did I just derail your thought process?
well, no, because I was kind of thrown off a bit on why I went into the wand thing and the magical focus. And it's more of a me just trying to figure out, well, how does this all link together, which I should be getting out of the way of. Hence why I also said getting out of the way. because like I was getting in my own way. But
Action.
everything is about, since we're hitting the end of a quote unquote era on this podcast. So, along with don't be hung up on the old stories, don't be hung up on the old ways of doing magic. In the end, it's your connection to the spirit that determines what you do. And yes, moving forward is
Yes.
going to be find the days where they're their strongest and they're at their lowest, but it's still about making that personal connection. Like right now, when I go online, like if I go to a subreddit about magic, it's always like that. I feel a little bit frustrated because it's everyone's still looking at a book, still looking at a, well, this is what the rules say. And it's like I know you need to start somewhere, and you do. You need to start somewhere, but it's like, do not let that bind you. Do not let that stop you from growing because you feel you're stepping away from what this spirit wants or this entity, whatever you want to call them. And it's like, let your relationship with that spirit grow.
Yeah, here's the thing, that rule book no longer applies.
Right.
That's the thing. It's I have an image of this wonderful bonfire with all these ornate rule books and tomes that we need to follow, that they're all ending up on the bonfire. And I am absolutely not somebody who advocates for banning books. I don't think there's a book that needs to be banned. You can simply not read it if it's not your taste. But the imagery is that those old rule books, and they're very dusty in this picture, um, they no longer serve. There's no point to them. The paper is brittle.
Mm,
The book covers are dusty. They've done their time. They are from a previous era,
right.
and they are not helpful moving forward. They need to
Well,
be released.
yeah. So it's cyclical. Think of it as a cycle. You start off something's new, it's raw. At some point, yes, the people at the beginning of it, they have the most attunement to it, they have the most immediate grasp of it. But as time goes on and those people fade and are maybe even forgotten, people try to capture that essence and move it forward. So they start writing things down, they start making stories, they start sharing traditions. And that's all still good stuff. But it comes a point where the original thing that you were looking for is lost because too much story, too much tradition, too many things are added onto it, and it dilutes what you originally had. And then it's just time for a purge. It's time to get rid of all that stuff so you can start again to reconnect.
And it's time to see what is it now,
Right.
because it's different to them. Like, just think of if you're struggling with the idea of this, listener,
Right.
then think of medieval Britain. Okay, how do we relate to that
Mm.
now? I mean, you can look at the tapestries and you can look at the history books, and they're kind of quirky images that you either like or you don't. And oh wow, they weren't very good artists or whatever, because the drawings of people and you know the various things that befell them are not as realistic as we would want
Right.
to find these days, because that wasn't what they needed then. That
Right.
wasn't that wasn't a requirement. It simply wasn't. So you look at things from the medieval era, they we have no connection to them. There is nothing from that needs to be carried forward. And yet we're still following the same rule book.
Right.
But our lives aren't like that. We are not those people. I mean, when you think of the evolution of human beings, just imagine since your grandparents' generation, what have we had? We've gone from rockets to the moon, we've got airplanes, we've
Mm.
got cars that can drive themselves. Not necessarily sure that's a good idea, but okay. We've got computers, we've got internet, we've got all these things that couldn't even be imagined not that long ago,
Mm.
right? And now we've got kids who are being raised by the phone or by the iPad, right?
Right.
That's the babysitter. And the whole world is open in a very different way. So, honestly, people who were around raised before computers are going to be looking kind of antediluvian, sort of fossilized to
Right.
these kids who have, how did you live before internet? Like, what do you mean you didn't ask Google for everything?
Mm.
Huh? And it doesn't compute anymore. So even within our lifetime or close to it, the species has changed so dramatically. We are not the same people. So how is it that over a few thousand years we're still following these rule books? And we're
Right.
told by those who would have you believe them completely, we're told that every word is true.
Mm.
That's patently inaccurate. But isn't that an interesting anomaly that we have changed so much, and yet the rule book is supposed to be the same rule book? It hasn't been accurate for a long time, but now it's downright damaging. And it's Carly's like, yeah, got to get rid of that thing. That rule book's not working for you. It's in
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but it is interesting to go and look at social media with practitioners of magic and see how stuck they still are.
Mm,
It's not everyone. I do see people like realizing and understanding what magic is really about. But a lot of people are still stuck on the rules. They're still stuck on it's got to be done at this time. You have to offer this specific thing. And it's like, all right. That also makes me switch, uh, not switch, I guess, not switch tracks, but it reminds me or makes me think of I was bored yesterday, so I was asking ChatGPT with everything going on in the pod that we've done on the podcast and everything I've done working with spirits and we've done on the podcast. What's your assessment, of the magic we're doing? And then ChatGPT says, well, because I think I started off doing something like, what's the difference between an earth witch and a shaman?
mm,
And then there's a lot of overlap, but there's some very specific differences that I don't know if really are differences. At least not from my perspective, they're not different. But when I asked Chad to make an assessment of how like what we're doing here compares to what people are practicing magic, and ChatGPT's assessment was, well, you guys are like doing what comes before magic. You
mm,
guys are in the primordial, and what you're doing basically is sets up everything else that's being done right now. Like in terms of whatever kind of magic you decide to go into, there's still some very basic foundational stuff, and that's where we are in the podcast. We're doing the foundational, which we knew we were doing, but just to have Chat GPT like make that assessment is like, yeah, you guys are doing the foundational stuff, and everything else that everyone that's coming up, that's just all extensions of it. So kind of, I think it worded it kind of in a way like you guys are doing all the magic because all the magic comes from what you guys are doing, where you're working right now.
mm. You're right. We do repeat themes fairly often, but again, if you look at that trusty old rule book that I've been
Right.
referring to, um, themes are repeated throughout that, and the way to do the repetition is with different stories, different angles, if you will, because the same version doesn't land for every person. And so
Right.
for someone, they can have heard it 10, 15 times, but then there's one little thing that's said, one sentence somewhere that's like, oh, got it.
Yeah.
And it lands. And we all have that. So I suspect that's why certain themes come up over and over again in slightly different angles, different perspectives, but the message is the same. Like we're always talking about clarity of intention and make sure that you're doing the thing you're congruent with because you will receive the consequences, whatever that is. I've said before, I think on this, and certainly I've said it to you, Danielle. I'm not one of those people who believes in the threefold
Right.
law, which is, the whole law of karma and da da da. Karma is simply the law of action. Okay, so we have we've messed with the definition. Karma is whatever you do, there is a consequence.
Right.
And this is true. And that I hold with. But what it's been taken to mean nowadays, is whatever you do, it'll come back to you threefold or
Right.
tenfold or whatever, No, no, that's a transactional thing. So if you do something that's quote unquote good, you expect threefold in return. Well,
Right.
yeah, good luck with that. And if you do something that's, maybe you're hexing someone, well, a lot of people don't want you to do that because they're afraid of it. And so, how are they going to stop you other than making you afraid?
Right.
Right. So, hence, don't do it or it's going to bounce back on you threefold. But uh, that's, this is kindergarten stuff. It's not
Right.
true.
Well,
The,
that's
the
the thing.
reality is you do a thing
Mhm.
and there will be something that occurs because of that, because that's what you just did. It's far more simple than these additional rules make it.
Right. And to even oversimplify it even more, so everything has a consequence. Everything you do
Yep.
has a consequence, regardless of whether you are aware of the consequence, there's a consequence. And consequently, to use the term, every time you do something, you're someone's hero and you're someone's monster.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter if you're intending to do good, you're still going to be someone's monster. And it doesn't matter if you're intending to do something bad, because at some point you might be someone's hero because of this bad behavior that affected this one person one way. The consequences can trickle down and be beneficial to someone else.
So the definition of what's good and what's bad, and I'm putting both of those in air
Mm,
quotes, um, that the definition of that is basically down to your intention, right? It's were you hoping to make something better or something worse? Were you
right,
hoping to inflict some kind of negative thing on a person, or were you hoping to improve their life, or was it all about you? And that's, okay, once you know why you're doing something, you'll have a good idea as to whether it's quote unquote good or bad. But all of this is a distraction. Again,
mhm,
it's just simply accept that what you do has a result or a consequence. It's a natural, immediate response. If you bang
right,
your head's going to hurt. These two things go together. There's no, it doesn't. Or, well, if I bang my head because I need to get a nail into the wall, it won't hurt. Like you can hear it's twaddle. Of course, it's not,
right,
you know, it's nonsense. But we get convoluted about, well, if I do this thing because of this, then it's okay. Be aware that
right,
your intention is important so that you have clarity. But the fact is, what you do is what you're doing, and you will get the results of that.
right,
So, again, it's all about whittling it down to the component parts and stopping with the story already and just like, okay, what's next? What am I doing? What's the purpose? So right at the beginning of this episode, you were saying about reclaiming feminine power
right.
and not using it to, basically inflict payback. Well,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Because why? Like there's no point to that. You just distract yourself and come down to the level of that kind of energy that's very stuck. So we need to rise above it so that we can properly address what needs to be addressed.
Right. So, not that I'm going to say duh, but this ties into the dreams I've been having. It's like, well, what do you do now that you don't have to care? Because that ends up being the end thing of each dream, the Darth Vader one, the whatever Mafia Don thing. It's that you have power to do something. you are now beyond their power to do something to you, but you can do something to them. So what do you do with that? Do you get dragged down to their level, quote unquote, or do you live your life knowing that they can't, that no matter what they try to do, you can deal with it. You don't have to worry about them in that sense. You're always
And,
capable of thwarting.
and even further, you can just step over them now,
Right.
right? Like you can keep going. They're a bump in the road that you step over. You don't have to give them any degree of attention at all. It's just, okay, I recognize the situation and I choose not to engage on with my path, and you keep going. They're not None of these distractions are worth your energy. Energy is the most precious currency. It's the thing we have while we're here having this human
Mhm.
experience. And you have a certain amount of it. When it's gone, it's gone. It's not coming back. Money can come from somewhere that's, fine, okay, whatevs. And one person may think they're well off with $5 in their pocket, and
Right.
another might think they're not well off with 5,000 in their pocket.
Right.
So, it's a subjective thing, but your energy isn't. It's literally it's your life force. So where are you spending it? Where are you spending that precious currency? And focusing on the negatives that come up. There's a lesson there. Get the lesson, move on. That's it.
Yeah. To
That
do
actually put a pin in that because
right.
that's the deal. On your path, there's a bump. Something didn't go the way you wanted it to. There was a problem. There was a big thing, small thing, whatever. There is a lesson in there. There's something for you to get from it, some gold. And once you've got that, keep going. That's it.
Right. I was going to add in the idea of like to look at it from this way. There's a saying that goes, right? Don't argue with don't argue with, is it fools or idiots or stupid people because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Right. And it's just literally a waste of your energy.
Right.
It's literally a waste of your focus. Like, why spend time on it? They don't matter that much.
And it's funny how it's all coming together right now at this moment on the podcast because, like, I learned a lesson this week about the dreams that I've been having. That at first I thought, well, maybe they're like, is this like a test or is this like, and I was too over focused on the details of the dream instead of realizing what it, you know, because I missed the whole point. I didn't understand at the time was like what do you do now that you have the power to not have to worry about this? Like, why are you focusing on this? Like, yeah, if you have to, you can deal with it. Like, it's not like they become invisible to you all of a sudden, but you don't have to worry about what they're doing, you
It
know?
doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter what they're doing because they're not of consequence to you at this point because you have the ability to go.
Exactly.
So, even like it's funny, like I miss those details because I'm either focused on what the power in the dreams were, like what was this power that, and I get focused on it, or I worried about like, is this a test of some kind? And my like, it's like it's not a test. It's like at best, okay, where are you right now? We just need to know where you are. So here's a dream. How do you react in this scenario? Oh, okay, fine. But that's also kind of I say it, and it's also a bit of a misunderstanding because if you really think about your dreams, sometimes the reactions you have in your dreams aren't really yours. You're playing out a scenario to see what would happen if this happens. So your reaction to what's happening in the dream may not be your normal reaction, in awake. But you're trying to see where does this reaction lead me. So it's like you're not even how to put it. It's another way of playing out a scenario. It's like a modeling thing almost. So instead of being hung up of like how am I reacting, think, well, what does this teach me, this reaction? Like, because
Right.
yeah,
The lesson is the important part.
right.
Every time there's a mistake or a misstep or something got in your way, there was a problem, those things have something to teach you.
Hmm.
You don't have to like it. You just need to find the thing that's there that you can learn. Why did it go that way? Let me see. what could I do differently, or
Right.
what information am I getting for this that I can use and move on? And you keep going, and sometimes one event you can revisit it a few times to get different lessons, but perseverating on who was right, who was wrong, was
Right.
it fair, was it unfair, all these judgment calls. If you find yourself doing that, you've gone way off track and you are so in the woods right now and you're about to step into a swamp. It's like, let's backtrack and not focus on who did what to who when and who was right and who was wrong, because
Right.
again it sucks your energy out. It's such a waste of your time here and your energy. It really is. Once you get what I'm saying, when it lands, it'll be like, oh my god, we don't need to be doing that. I don't need to be doing that either. Oh hey, let that go. And suddenly you'll be shedding like a snake on its favorite skin shedding day. Just, you know, it'll all be going away as it needs to. If the snake keeps its old skin, it will die. It has to shed because it's grown
Right.
so much. The pressure requires that it sheds that skin. We're in that space now as people. You got to
Right.
shed that skin. Be prepared to let it go. I heard someone talk about ego death yesterday, and I was, oof, gotta say, I had a few moments of judgment there. I was like, oh, dude, could you please stop talking until you've done some learning? But because this person misunderstood ego death as sort of you being humbled. And no, that is absolutely not what is meant by ego death. Ego is your identity. It's who you see yourself as, where you see yourself.
Right.
Ego death means you are literally the snake shedding the skin. You're letting that go and stepping into who you can be now, right? So if once upon a time you were afraid for people to know you were a wizard
Mm.
and you had other things going with that identity of who you were, right? I'm in the closet,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Okay, then that's who you were then. Then when you step out of that and you have other things coming into your identity, you have to let go of the behaviors that go with being in the closet,
Right.
right? You need to own it now. If you're stepping forward and letting people know, hey, this is something I do, this is how I identify, well, you need to own it, right? That is an ego death. You're
Yeah.
letting the old you go and stepping into the new version of you. So this poor chump that was talking about being humbled and stuff was like, oh my God, you have taken a word and butchered it, dude.
Mm. You know,
That's
I'll actually add something to what you were saying, not directly, but how I've changed since doing this podcast and since having you on. As of yesterday, I started keeping a deck of Oracle cards in the vehicle,
aha.
just in case someone wants a reading. I'm prepared.
And sometimes you might want one.
Yeah, which is funny because it came to me yesterday. It's like leave a deck in the car, and then if you're somewhere and someone needs it, you can go get it. Like, because one, I realized I have five decks now, two tarot decks and three Oracle decks, and you know I don't understand all the definitions, and I don't understand, and some things I'm not really attuned to. Like the imagery doesn't really hit it for me, so I kind of need to see their definitions so that when I look at the cards, I want to see why the person made those definitions. So actually, starting September, I'm going to be returning to doing a daily practice of just pulling cards every day, and I
Mhm.
might actually do those live on Facebook.
Can I
Go ahead.
give you a suggestion?
Sure.
What's coming to me for the whole
Mm.
Oracle deck thing is
Right.
you are not congruent with the definitions you've been given because they're not your definitions.
Right.
You need to write your own.
Yeah.
Even if the card came from elsewhere, you have a definition, but it's not the one that you were given. So you do yours.
Well, that's the
It's
thing,
not going to work. It's not going to work correctly if you are trying to use somebody else's definition that simply isn't in your
right?
language. It's not what you perceive. You can only work with what you have.
Right. Well, since last episode, when you were pulling the cards out and I was just giving a definition for them, I started doing that.
Mhm.
And what threw me off is that so I have a Star Trek: The Next Generation tarot deck now. Not to throw my brother and my sister-in-law under the bus on this one, but I have a hard time bonding with that deck because the imagery I have like is lost on me because I haven't watched Star Trek in such a long time that like some of the characters that come up, the ones that are replacing the Queen and the Page and the King and all that, I'm like, who the hell is that again? I know the name is there, but it's like I have no connection to this anymore. So I'm kind of like, so I'm reading it. I'm like, and I'm looking up the characters and going, oh, okay, that's why they put it there. Oh, that's why that one's that one. Oh, okay, that's why that's. But I'm like, but I cannot connect to the deck.
It might be a deck that's simply fun to have, that's
Yeah.
decorative, but it
Mm.
might not be one that you use.
Right.
Sometimes decks go like that, you know?
Right.
And there's so many versions out there. I'm working on creating one now.
Yeah. Well, I
And
had also had that idea of doing
uh,
I think like a wizard tarot deck,
totally can, why not?
but it brings me to something else too. Like of all the crystals I bought when I was working with Narada Muni, some of them are like, oh, you're gonna give us away. Like some of them are like, we're gonna be gifts for someone. So our time with you is very limited. You'll be giving us away to people. And some are going to be staying with me for the foreseeable future, and some are going to be gifts to be given away. So, and I was kind of thinking that like some of my decks are probably going to go that route as well.
Well, potentially.
So,
You'll know when you've got a
yeah.
deck that really resonates and it's one that you keep turning to. Um, and you honestly can never tell when what it's going to be until it is.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I rather like Oracle decks too. Like not just the tarot, but I like the Oracle decks because they are also very much open to interpretation. Even if you've got somebody's written interpretation that they're offering you,
Mm-hmm.
you can play with that also. So there's a lot of things you can do. Um, yeah, it's fun to play with the cards, I feel. And I find it interesting when I come across someone that says, "Oh, that's devil magic," the devil's in those cards and that kind of thing. It's like, what an interesting concept, and how ancient is that? Like the concept crumbles in my
Right.
vision as somebody speaks it. It's like, wow, you're trying to bring up something that's gone. It's a ghost. It's not there.
You
Interesting.
know, it is fun, right? The more you do your practice, your magical practice, whatever it is, the more you realize the stories being told to you, especially in popular fiction, how so off the mark it is and so like still, I mean, the most recent I've watched about tarot decks, like a fictional work, the tarot cards are still being treated like as if there's some kind of enchanted thing, and it's the cards that have the power when they're just something for you to look at that you chose,
Uh-huh. They're,
and the
they're just
power isn't coming from
cards.
you. Yeah.
You could use a playing deck,
Mm-hmm.
and I know people who do. There's a whole thing about that. You can just use a regular deck of playing cards.
Right.
It's not about the cards, it's about you and your interaction with them and what you do with them. So that's why there can be so many diverse decks out there, and different people will gravitate to them for different reasons. And
Yeah.
some work more than others, and some are just they're a little bit out of sync. And you
Right.
know it when you've got it, and you're like, oh, I thought I was going to really like that, but it's not quite. I have one deck that's not smooth for me. And
Right.
I keep it around because I haven't decided yet what that all means. So I'm not worrying about it. I'm just leaving it to one side.
Right.
But it's not about the cards. It really isn't.
Well, that's the
Hence,
thing,
I
right?
can make an Oracle deck, not because I have some kind of um magical ability to imbue them with, but simply because I know what I like and I want to make a deck.
Right.
And and that's what it'll be
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of the things I mention when I teach someone how to use a tarot deck or even just divination tools in general. It's like you can make your own. You can come up with your own imagery, whatever you want. And I had made the joke, right, of the you can make like a deck specifically for, lovers and then, have cards very specific about very specific kinds of individuals. But, and you can do whatever you'd like. But the idea in the end is that what you're really doing, this actually came to me yesterday. What you're doing is you're saying, okay, spirits I'm working with, here's a set series of images I want you to choose from to give me the sign that you would give me, where you would pick something from nature or some event. But I'm gonna offer you this particular way of telling me something. So it's like you're just basically telling the universe or the spirits to choose a sign from this deck or this whatever stone or these bones or whatever these tiles instead of like going out and seeing the wind knocks a leaf out of a tree and and that leaf reminds you of something and there's your sign, but it's you're giving them a very specific set of options.
Right. Now, something about signs
Right.
is when people get into that, the whole give me a sign for such and
Right.
such, give me a sign, suddenly you start seeing signs
Right.
everywhere. And I would just offer that not everything is a sign. Not
Right.
everything has to be a sign. Sometimes a bird is just a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, a cat crossing your path is simply on its way somewhere, and it doesn't
Right.
actually mean anything more than that. So, tread carefully with that one simply because it can be very seductive. It's like, oh, yeah, let me have a sign for this. And I can't do that until I have a sign. And I need to have this sign and people will
Mm-hmm.
start to abdicate their responsibility
Yes.
and their decision making to the need for a sign. And so it's a slippery slope. I would be very careful. Anybody that's already looking for signs of things, use it cautiously because it can pull you in.
It's interesting. I've come across this especially more not so much in new things but in old decks and stuff like that. When I was younger, there would always be a warning of this is addicting. So don't spend your whole life expecting signs to do things for you,
Right.
to guide you. You still have your own free will. You still make decisions. Don't get stuck on this. I don't think I've seen it in new stuff. I don't think any of my new books have it, but or the
Which is a
new,
pity because they have to warn you to take the wrapper off the burrito before you eat it
yeah,
these days. But um, yeah, it's the person. If everybody's come across somebody like this, I think, or you've read jokes about this
mm-hmm,
person, but people are out there who must know what their horoscope says for today. They
right,
have got to know where the planets are, etc., before they can, get on with their day. And they will literally organize their lives around what their horoscope says. This is an abdication of personal responsibility.
right.
You're basically saying somebody else's interpretation of your chart is going to tell you how you live your life, what you're going to do. Now, just in case somebody's thinking, well, don't you do human design? And isn't that what that is? I'm going to give you a very hot no.
All right, for the listeners, because I don't know how well I'm going to edit this, which I don't normally do, but Michaela kept cutting out, so I don't know how well I'm going to hit the beginning of what she's saying. So I'm just letting you know when you listen and suddenly it seems different or not right or the flow is off. It's just because we're starting again.
Yeah, and earlier on you had said how you don't edit because you don't want
Right,
to do that. And so that happened, right?
right.
That
Well, and
it
before
came
you,
up. But let
okay,
let me say the thing while I
okay, go ahead.
remember the thing,
All right, go ahead.
because I often don't remember it after I've said it. Um, in this case, I was talking about signs, and when you're looking for signs, and we all know someone in some way, shape, or form that must know their horoscope before they get into their day. They need to know if it's a good day or a bad day, and they have lots of faith in what this horoscope tells them. And yet, who decided what your horoscope tells you? Like, who are you relying on really? It's not objective. And I had also gone on to say
Mhm.
that for anyone who's thinking, well, isn't that the same thing with human design? No, it isn't. You could theoretically go there if you wanted to, because there are transits every day. I mean, there is astrology in human design, but you'd have to be trying hard to make that the boss of you, right?
Right.
Because it's exactly what it's not meant to do. And so the cautionary tale was don't be trapped into thinking that you must know the signs or the astrology or the whatever it is that you're becoming dependent on. It's a slippery slope. So,
Right.
and that didn't seem to cut out. So, yay.
Hmm. No, that went smoothly. Um, because it made me think, right? Like while I was waiting for Michaela to come back. Um, you'll probably notice as the listeners that this is a two-person task, what Michaela and I are doing right now, because we don't necessarily entirely get the full download, I've noticed. I'll present it a certain way, and then that kicks off a conversation. And then Michaela gets something that kicks off a conversation. So it's another one of those things of don't get stuck even on the signs you get to add to the science thing because the sign you're getting might just be to start something off. And it's not an answer to what you wanted to know, but it's the starting place of getting things going. And that's why it's so important to understand flow and not worry about tools or outside stories. It's important to get to the flow because the flow is what's going to help you the most. And like so, even human design, right? I think we've mentioned this on the podcast before. So human design shows you your gates and all the things and how the energy flows through you and into you. But how you use that flow and what the likely outcome is may not be what you think from what you're told because it might.
Well, everything,
Right.
everything has a shadow side.
Right.
So it depends on what you're using and when as to how it's going to look. But I mean, it's so open. Anybody's design is open to different uses.
Hmm.
Um, the thing with relying on something as your signal to go ahead and your, oh no, I'd better not today. I'd better just stay home and go back to bed because my stars say it's a
Hmm.
bad day. Um, that kind of thing, you're stepping out of really you're stepping out of every cycle there is. Like you're just sort of putting it onto somebody else, some other
Hmm.
thing to make your decisions for you. And you're not really living your life at that point. You're kind of on hold while you just follow a bunch of signs. The other
Right.
thing with signs is we can get a little transactional with that, right? Give me this sign and then I'll do X.
Right.
Or if you show me this, I'll do Y. And, again, got to go back to the religion thing because I know for a fact that people use the whole God, if you give me this, I promise I'll go to church on Sunday and, yada, yada. I'll do all these things. And people make these promises. And then, of course, the thing happens and they forget the promises because, well, it was going to happen anyway. It wasn't really because I made that bargain. So we get very transactional and not very honest with it. And it can be, it's just a substitution for the rule book that we've just been talking about that's
Right.
no longer valid.
Right.
So, don't replace one dysfunctional thing with something that's even worse. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah. I'm going to oversimplify it and put it like this because you kind of mentioned it. Just because you get a sign that says something might be difficult doesn't mean you're not doing it. It just prepares you to realize it'll be difficult and take your steps necessary for the difficult thing.
And the sign, depending on what it is, may be pointing to something that, hey, if you add this or if you take this out, it'll be a little bit easier.
Right.
So, interpretation of signs, you could spend all day on that. And then again, you're not living your life, you're not doing things. So I would watch the whole tendency to want signs and also look at why do you want them? Are you looking for proof? Is that the deal? Like, prove to me that you're real or I won't believe it. Nah, nobody's playing that game. That's for little kids.
Yeah.
Nobody's playing, no deity's going to play that game. And if they do, you might be in more trouble than you're aware.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny. And this does tie in where stories get in the way. Like, what am I trying to think here? There's, I don't have the full vocabulary here.
Right? And I'll jump in if I get something.
So what I'm getting, this is what keeps coming to my mind. I don't know how well it'll turn out. So this is an anime based on a book, based on a historical event. So bear with me. So basically, there's a king. His kingdom is under an empire, whatever. And so he always does the I Ching every day. Every time he goes to make a move, he does the I Ching. Okay.
Mhm.
So he ends up being killed, frankly, because he's like super reliant on it. All his wisdom, all his rulership comes from that. But what I get in my head from seeing that imagery is that it's cool to do this. This is how I know I'm a person of wisdom because I can read the I Ching, or I'm a person of wisdom because I can do tarot. I'm a person of wisdom because I know how to read these signs from the bones or whatever. But that's, again, to go back, that's not where the wisdom is. Those are just tools. They're not sacred artifacts in that sense, to use the word. The All it is a way for you to outside look at what you're trying to figure out from an outside, but it's just a tool to help you while you can't focus or when you're out of inspiration.
Yes, and
Yeah.
um, I think that's another cautionary tale
Mm-hmm.
that's coming up, which is that whole I am the great I am.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. And nobody needs to care. That's the thing, because we're all doing our own version, our own thing. So if you're skilled at tarot, whatever that means, right? Like you are adept at using tarot cards, great, cool. Then enjoy it. That's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make you better than the people who come to hear what you have to say, because they too have their thing that they're really good at. They might not have discovered it yet, but they do. So it's one of those things. I'm not going to say be humble, because that's a whole other trigger thing for me. People use this word like confetti, and I don't think they know what it means. Um, but it's more, don't get caught up in that. It's it's a waste of time, really. You can be happy to know that you're really good at a particular thing. Maybe you're great with your pendulum, maybe there's
Right.
something else that's really cool, but it just means that you know what works well for you. That's all. And so great, have fun with that. I have certain things that work well for me, and I wouldn't dream of saying, oh, I'm so good at this. Like, it wouldn't occur to me, simply because it doesn't matter. Other
Right.
people, I'm sure, can do the same or more, and that's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about being who you are, both unapologetically, but also realistically.
Yep.
Own who you are, own your power. Don't make it mean anything that it's not, but don't undervalue it as well. And I think that's one of the key things because you can look at Kylie and one of her lessons is value yourself.
Yes. But it's value yourself for yourself, if you
Right.
will. rather than holding yourself up for others to look at.
Mm,
I think that's something that's coming through for me. It's more status isn't important, and absolutely so when it comes to magical things. It,
right,
it it's another one of those distractions. It's an illusion. It doesn't matter. Who are you in status to? For what purpose? What will it get you? What will it demand of you? Nothing. No, all of these things are nothing. So that's the short answer.
right,
Um, it's like being pulled in with the signs and pulled in
right,
with the, oh, I'm gonna wear a special robe that says I'm this level of adept. You can if you want to, like if it's fun, cool, do it. But don't
right,
expect other people to be impressed, I guess, is
right.
what's coming up. Because
Well,
they don't need to be. Doesn't matter.
yeah, you know what? Kali is giving me a gift. There is an example I've been wanting to use since we started talking about power and have perspective on it, you know, for a while now. And I've been dying to have an episode where I can use this analogy in. So there's a card game, and I know where I'm from. In English, we call it arsehole, and in French, truc cul, right? It has different names. I've looked for rules, and you find different names for it. But essentially, so without going into the actual game, because that's not the point, but you have one player, we'll say is the president. It's been also been prime minister, or whatever, and they get every advantage in the game. They get extra cards. They go first, or they don't go first, but they have the advantage of always the best cards, or as much as they can, like within dealing of the cards, right? And it goes down until you get to the arsehole, who has the worst advantages and has to give their best card to the president. The president gives them their worst cards, their two worst cards, whatever. So the arsehole starts off with the worst of the worst of the worst. And we're playing it, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I'm going to be president," blah blah blah. And I'm like, these are all missing the point. The most powerful player in the game is not the president because they get all kinds of advantages. The most powerful person in the game is the arsehole because the arsehole gives out the cards and determines who's and can determine who's president, who's vice president, whatever, in second where it goes, right? Even though they start off with what seems like the worst advantage because they have to give their best cards. Like tons of people, if you play it, there's tons of times where you go right from arsehole to president because just because you don't have the biggest cards, the cards you have are still really awesome. You can still take what you have, but you hand out the cards. And that's kind of my main point of it is like, so if you know how to deal, and I say that wink wink, if you know how to deal, you are the most powerful player in the game because you determine what everyone gets.
Hmm.
So don't look at so when like we're talking, right? And we're saying like don't worry about your status because don't because even in this game, even though you get the quote unquote offensive name of Arsehole, you're still the most powerful player in the game, technically.
Okay. Yeah, so again, that takes us back to power
Right.
and focusing on the having of
Right.
power or not and what to do with it. And
And that's what I
perhaps
mean.
that's perhaps that's speaking to someone in particular.
Yeah. But it's
Um,
perception. It's perception of what it means to have power, who holds it, who doesn't hold it, whether it matters if you hold it or not, because
mm,
everything has its advantages and disadvantages. But I bring it up because Arsenal seems like the worst thing, and no one wants to play the role of Arsenal. But it's like that's like not wanting to play the role of garbage man. What happens when the garbage men go on strike, especially in a large urban center?
mm,
That city
yeah,
gets in trouble really quickly, but yet
yeah,
they're looked down upon, you know. Or even take the untouchables in the Indian caste system. You don't have the untouchables; the rest are screwed. The untouchables decide not to
absolutely.
lead, right? Everyone else is screwed. So you need them more than you need the people leading.
Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned the caste system in India
Right,
and the untouchables because this is a system that everybody buys into,
right,
even the untouchables. The vast majority of people in that caste believe what they're told,
mm,
which is you're born into this level because of your karma, right? It's
right,
you're here because of that, and therefore this is how you get treated. And for the most part, it's like, oh, that sucks. Okay. And they kind of accept that this is the lot. Now, somebody listening might get quite vexed with me over this, but I have been traveling to India since I was a kid. I've been there so many times, and I lived in Bangladesh for a while. So I'm not talking out of the air when I say
Mm,
this. I do have some knowledge, not vast tons that I'm not born there or anything,
mm,
but I've been there many, many times and have learned about the cultures that are in India to a degree because I'm very interested. So, when I say that about the caste system, really, you have a few that argue about it and say, no, I don't agree. But the vast majority, just like various political party
mm,
followers, will just follow the herd. They bleat when somebody says bleat. And it's because they've been told that this is their lot. So that can be the power of old stories
right.
and everybody's agreement to them, because if people turn their back on those old stories, they are nothing. They're gone. They don't mean a thing. You don't have to do anything radical to change that situation. You don't have to have a massive blood flowing revolution in
Right.
order to lift up the untouchable caste. You just need people to say, that's rubbish. I don't believe it. And there you go, it's gone. If enough people say it, right? But at the same time, if enough people buy into a particular story, then so it is.
Yeah. So once again, stories.
Huh? Stories are powerful.
Yeah. And you know what? So Kali is like really, really pay attention to the stories you're believing. Really, really pay attention to the stories you're allowing to be repeated around you. She almost wants to say, well, actually, she wants to say, be the destroyer of stories. Sort of,
Stories that no longer serve.
right. Be the keeper of your, to use the old term, be the keeper of your brother. But you can, that's people, like everyone, doesn't just specifically mean males, just for the listeners. And yes, destroy the old stories. They're not needed anymore and they're only getting in the way.
It's specifically, to my understanding, it's specifically stories that tell you can't,
Right.
tell you that you're less than, that you are
Yes.
um, not as important and therefore cannot, whatever the thing is. Where you're being told you can't, that is, it benefits someone and the someone isn't you.
Right. You know what? I want to say this. So I'm hoping that it gets transmitted through the recording of the episode and then the playing of, but right now, Kali is giving off. I'm getting in the way because I don't like the wording, but you're all divine. You all have
Yes.
power. Like, yeah, don't let others stop you from existing in your power. And don't stop other people from existing in their power, because that's important too. Let the power that needs
So,
to flow right now.
okay, thank you for opening that because I'm going to go there now you've done that.
Right.
That was kind of hovering for me a little bit, but God consciousness
Mm-hmm.
is all of us.
Right.
We are, in fact, God, as in God exists in us
Mm-hmm.
and also in the animals and in everything else that's alive, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that, well, it doesn't matter what I'm not saying. Point is,
It's what
God
you're saying that's important.
consciousness, yes, a God consciousness is your ability to tap into primordial flow, to tap
Mm-hmm.
into the source, creator.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's if ever you've come across theta healing, for example, which I can also do,
Mm-hmm.
and have studied, then that involves getting in touch with the source and unraveling all kinds of threads throughout generations and stories and so on that we have. that need healing. So theta healing is an approach. It's a
Right.
good approach. It's still not one to get stuck in. It serves a purpose, but at a certain point, you can, and I can't emphasize this enough, you can simply change your mind.
Right.
Like I was saying about the caste system, if you want the caste system to go away, change your mind. And it requires the collective to do it because the
Yeah.
collective have bought into it.
Hmm.
But it's doable. It doesn't take big things. It's a decision, which is why it's so important not to get into a habit of giving your decisions to external things, such as a sign of this or that person who tells me they're important says I can't, so therefore
Right.
I can't. All of this stuff, it's bullshit. It's keeping you away from what you know to be true. You just got to get back in touch with that. But the external stuff, you don't need it.
Mm. Yes. Also, Michaela would have noticed it while she was speaking. My eyes were closed, and I was like, well, I was nodding along to let her know I'm still acknowledging what she's saying. But so Kali just embedded something in the episode. Lots of energy is in it. Well, because she basically pushed energy through my heart chakra into the episode. So it'd be interesting to see what the results of that are. And that's her. That's her. That's what she had to say.
Mhm.
So we're like really have like these episodes are really, really getting passionately about being who you are and owning yourself and owning, your power.
Personal agency.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, if you're going to use a very term that everyone can use, personal agency.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And it's really helpful to start looking at where do you give that away? And it might not be to a person, it might be to a thing, it might be to a belief, but you don't have to believe everything you think. Those thoughts have come from outside. You were given those thoughts. You can reject them. You can change your mind.
Mm.
And that's a big thread that's coming up for me today is change your mind. That's where your power is. You don't have to keep doing and thinking and saying the things that you've been doing, thinking and
Right.
saying. You can change your mind. What else is possible? It's a great question. I use it a lot. When something's happening and I'm not loving it, a question I'm going to ask myself or out into the ether, whatever, is what else is possible? What else could this be?
Yes.
And another great question is what would it be like if it was easy?
Ooh.
Because sometimes you'll get an answer that's really quite straightforward.
That's a great question. I like that.
Mhm. It is because human beings overcomplicate things. We get caught up in these stories that have to mean things, and then it's got to be this and that, and there's a whole web woven to keep us in place. Well, what if it was easy? What if you could just like not be in that web?
Right.
What what is available to you then?
What's that called again? I want to say pattern break, but when you say something that completely derails someone's train of thought because they're stuck in it like a certain mindset
Pattern
and then
disrupt.
yeah, pattern disrupt. That's a great pattern disrupt. What if it was easy
Mhm.
instead of hard? What if you didn't have to do a decade of discipline or 20 years in a temple? What if you just tomorrow said, "Hey, I'm willing to work with me."
Mhm.
What if you
We
declared to
we
yourself,
really do.
yeah,
We really do overcomplicate things all over the place. Oh, I want to be good at tarot. Where
mm,
can I find a course so that I can get a certificate so that I can da 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 da? Or
right,
you could just pick up the tarot cards,
right,
couldn't you?
yeah,
Like it. Do you need all the other stuff? Says who?
right.
And that's actually another great question. So, anybody that's still with us,
Mm,
please go back a few minutes, start writing down these questions
mm,
because they can help you. Who said that? When you've got a rule that comes up, when you have a belief that, oh, I can't because who said so? Why, what gives them authority to say that? And newsflash, nothing does. They don't have authority to say that.
right.
They simply don't, and I don't care who it is. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday who was very focused on having a job that's, well regarded. And this person didn't currently have that job, but they wanted one and they were quite desperate for it because, they had a certain box to tick for this important job. And I said, but you could be the CEO of a very powerful company,
Mm,
and when you retire, you're retired. That's who you are. That's what you are. You could
right.
be a janitor, and when you're retired, you're retired. That's who you are, and that's what you are, right? So,
Mm,
in other words, is that actually important? I would argue,
right.
no, it isn't. Again, this is my perspective for sure, but where are we putting false importance on things?
Yes. So I'm gonna let you guys in a little secret. So Kali is gone, and she said the rest of the leave the rest of the episode for Michaela, and then the next spirit I'll be working with is here. That we'll be working with because you're still gonna work is here. The wording is this: Michaela is going to be the herald for September to September, as in you're going to introduce the spirit that's going to be the first spirit of September. Yes, I'll have her today, and we work with do the spell tomorrow. But then the work is on Monday, which is the first. So I guess we're jumping into that. So here's what I have. Here's the clues to start you off. This is a primordial giant, not a human giant. And there, that's the starting point for who this one is.
Hmm,
And
okay.
I'll throw in another detail. Right now, I'm feeling like a crushing weight, as in their presence is like squishing me down.
Hmm, interesting.
Yes. And you're the herald of September, of the spirit of September, the first spirit of September.
Interesting. Hmm. Well, I don't know that I have the same one coming to me that's coming to you because you've already had Gaia and I'm getting Gaia.
Well, it's not wrong. It's not correct, but the path. I see the connection. Sorry. I see the connection. Because
Well,
the
I
image
mean,
I'm getting, so there's the ground. I'm standing on the ground, and then this is like a big body on the ground, but I'm crushed under it. Well, crushed. You know what I mean? The weight of it. I'm experiencing the weight of this spirit.
hmm. Oh, still getting Gaia.
Mm.
So that will be, we should probably, I don't know if you want people to hear the process, um, because I think it's
We didn't do
potentially
it for
more
colleagues. We
interesting.
couldn't because we couldn't figure it out, right? I do like doing the this is what we like the steps we take to identify because those
Uh-huh.
who are stepping into, as we had said, right? Choose your deity, your spirit that you're working with, your right? And so they
Mhm.
might not know the spirit that ends up wanting to work with them. Just like we don't know most of the time on this podcast who it is from week to week until we do the search. I'll be honest with you, I have an idea who it is, and some of the
Mhm.
connection I see, and some of the connection I don't see.
Okay. Is it Juggernaut?
Well, I can offer you that there's a serpentine element to it.
Ah, okay.
I say
Hmm,
serpentine. Yeah.
serpentine. Is this to do with the creation of the world?
Yes, that's why there's a connection to Gaia.
Aha. So that's the churning of the seas and so on, the Nagas?
You could make a connection to them, but it's not the same mythology.
Okay. Anatta? Well, that's the king of the Nagas, but Shisha is a colossal multi-headed serpent
You're
who
getting there.
serves as the divine couch for Lord Vishnu.
You're in the right, but still the wrong mythology. But that's a very good connection.
Wadjet, Egyptian.
You're in the right part of the world.
The right part of the world.
Yeah,
Uh, Quetzalcoatl?
we did Quetzalcoatl, but
Yeah. Are we
so
going with Hydra? No, not Hydra.
no. But think of that multi-headed.
Okay, the Nagas. So not Shisha?
I don't even know why it's done this way, but whatever.
Okay. Well, Nagas are a big feature in Buddhism too, and
Yeah.
Hinduism.
No,
Um,
this is you're in when you say Egypt, you're in the right zone or you're in the right neighborhood.
okay, well, in Egypt, they are benevolent and chaotic. So
Mhm.
which are you seeing?
This is again a primordial thing where it's that it doesn't matter good or evil. Something similar to Ymir in nature.
Protective?
You know what? I don't know enough at this point about the entity itself. Everything I have is pretty much everything I actually know about this spirit is like fictional. Like it's not even mythology. It's just people making up fiction.
Oh, I might not know it then. See, Apex comes up again.
Yeah, because
Mm,
the vibe is so similar to all these people you named, but it's
mhm.
at least to my understanding of the actual spirit.
Hmm. So Sekhmet, goddess of war, disease, and destructive forces, or Set, god of chaos and storms.
Well, what did I say? Um,
Ra.
so remember, the connection to Gaia is that it's another instance of the world being created from them.
Huh. My mind went to Raven then. Okay, I don't know that I'm getting it.
All right. So it's Tiamat.
Didn't I say that one?
I don't think so.
Sounds familiar.
I think we've discussed her on the podcast before. I think she's a her.
Damn it, damn it, damn it. Okay.
Is it Babylonian or
Hmm.
Mesopotamian? Trying to think.
Okay, this is definitely an interesting side quest because
Hmm.
I am not getting in touch with this at all. So maybe what that he does. He tells people that, it's not a
Oh yeah,
perfect thing.
yeah. Because I mean, there's times where we do this, and I think I know, which is why I'm like I'm not stopping you because it's like, well, it could be maybe I'm the one, maybe maybe I'm just giving that start off clue, and it's not that person, but that's to my understanding who it is. But you're being placed as the herald of this spirit, introducing her. So, or well, I think Tiamat's female.
Yeah.
Is supposed to be female, or is depicted as female.
Okay. And I do not know. Yeah, I think somehow we're not on the same path with this one, and I don't know why or what that's supposed to do,
Hmm.
but kind of
So
interesting.
this is interesting. So we're unfortunately going to end up leaving the listeners unresolved on this one, but don't know
Only
next.
because we are.
Right. But don't know next episode. So we're going to leave you guys there with that. Like I said, the only thing I have definitely is a large serpentine mass weighing down on me. Well, like it's like a mountainous, not a mountainous region. I almost want to say desert, but some mountains with some large, right, hills or at least, and then a weight of a large serpent-esque or serpent-like creature weighing down.
You're not seeing a dragon, are you?
Well, Tiamat, depending on who you believe, is a dragon of some kind.
Hmm. Okay.
Like, I only really know Tiamat with any kind of understanding through Dungeons and Dragons, where she's basically the mother of all dragons and has all the different kinds of dragons for heads. But and then they kind of do follow the whole idea that the universe is made from her body because Marduk, which I don't remember, I don't know, he's Mesopotamian, right? I don't, and he makes the body out of her. He fights her and makes the universe out of her.
Hmm.
But whether she's a serpent or a dragon, I don't know because, like I said, the actual mythology around her, like the actual spiritual stories, I'm not as familiar with. I know the whole Marduk and then making the universe out of her body. That's the only real thing I know, and then everything else is basically polluted by Dungeons and Dragons. So,
Hmm. Well, I'm gonna say that next week's might not be any of these things. I don't know because if I'm bringing it forward, this is not coming forward for me right now.
but like I
So
said,
we'll see what it is.
the basic
I
image
don't know.
that I'm getting is the large serpentine creature, a primordial giant.
Hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see what comes up. I
So,
have I got nothing right now. The only thing that came forward for me was Gaia.
right. So for the listeners, we're gonna leave this discussion there and do our stuff, and then you'll know next week who this is. Who's it
We'll
supposed
all
to
know
be?
next week. We'll all know next week.
Well, I'll know
Be
next
cool,
week. Well, I'll know as of the next recording who it was. All right.
right?
So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gavin Stone.
Until next time.
Until next time.